It was community hockey in Listowel, Ontario, and the local Pee Wee Association was holding tryouts for the prestigious Young Hockey Canada tournament following month in nearby Goderich. On the morning of February 28, 1959, the roof of the Listowel Memorial Arena collapsed under the weight of rain that had fallen on top of the existing heavy winter snow. 24 Pee Wee players and coaches were buried in the rubble. Most were rescued, but 8 people were killed, including 7 youth players and Listowel Recreation Director Kenneth McLeod. McLeod was 37 and a husband and father of 4. Leopard was skating to the bench as a Pee Wee player when he saw the arena wall slipping away. It was down in a matter of 3 seconds, he said. Myself and more than 20 other kids were buried under the debris. I was lucky to be near the boards. My father, Gordon, grabbed me by the shoulders and took me off the ice. Bender can remember seeing the roof open up and daylight appeared. He was sitting on the player's bench at the moment of collapse and suffered a pinched nerve in his back. He was left with no feeling in his left leg and was knocked unconscious by a falling beam. I didn't wake up until 3 in the afternoon in the hospital, he said. Because of that, I don't have a lot of horrific memories. Well, the note here is that Keith Bender taught here at Beavercrest Public School in 1969-70 era. He taught me science and phys ed. And Keith Bender is very active in keeping this forefront in the memories of people in Listowel and everybody that plays hockey, really. Because this could have happened to anybody, but it just happened to happen in Listowel, and it happened to happen to him. And I do remember noticing, before I knew that he was involved in this event, that he walked with an arch back. And he was in a fair bit of pain all the time. I didn't realize that. But I remember him opening up about it in one class, saying that it was a horrific experience. And I remember even pointed out Markdale's arena and saying, that's the same type of arena design that we had in Listowel, and maybe someday it should be redesigned. And of course, we have a new arena which has been here since I think the late 70s, mid 70s, 1975, the Santa Gray Recreation Complex, and we've enjoyed that for many years. And it's something to remember about these buildings. Hockey was still pretty new. I think the National Hockey League had celebrated its 50th anniversary in 1967. So it was a pretty new game, and these arenas were still they were built with wood and the products and really not really thinking that this sort of thing could happen. And because it was the first time it really did. Nobody built buildings like this until we had hockey and that sort of thing. So now wiser and better, I think, as we move forward. But still a lot of memories. I've heard a lot of memories about hockey games that were so many people were at that the players had to crawl in crawl spaces over the roof to get to their dressing rooms. There was no space for them to get to their dressing rooms to dress for a game. There was no places to park. There's no parking, and yet they had to get to a game. They had to be there on time. So very interesting how popular the game was and how popular the arena was. Another hub of activity in town. So that's one of the reasons I chose the old arena. And I'm sure a lot of you have memories of it as much as I have. Okay, let's see what else we have. Okay. Now, this is a building that's probably familiar to everybody. It's just recently disappeared from our landscape. But I remember going to this school and when it was high school, it was the Santa Gray District High School, and thinking how sophisticated and how modern and how wonderful it was. And I never foresaw the day that we might be saying goodbye to it, but here we are. It's 2025, and it's a thing of the past. But a lot of pleasant memories here. Constructed in 1951, it was, I think the number of schools were built at that time in the early 50s, post-war. There was a lot of optimism, and the schools actually focused a lot on people getting, focusing on a career or like a vocation to move into in their lives. So it was very interesting at that time how the construction sort of reflected that, kind of like a very scholastic and very scholarly design. And I went to school here, I guess 68 when it opened. When it opened as Beavercrest Public School. And of course, this is where I had Frida Hunt as my history teacher, and Keith Bender was my science teacher. We had a lot of interesting times. We had the industrial arts shop and the home economics room, a home economics course. But I don't know if schools have that now. I haven't seen much of that. I think Grey Highlands Secondary School still has the auto shop, so I think there's still a bit of of this sort of thing in the schools. Anyway, when it became Beavercrest, it was another big jump for this little kid in the country. And I think the bus ride was later too. I don't know why. Just seem to remember 45-minute to an hour bus ride. When I was living in Lauriston, I think we lived across the road from the school, so it was like a less than a minute walk. so progress, that's what progress is. Sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's just a little more time, but it's all good. Let's see, it later housed, it originally housed just the senior public school grades, but it later housed all grades, and that was the whole thing with the Beavercrest Annex. And when the annex finally shut down and the school was demolished, all the students were housed here. And again, there was portables. I do remember there was one point when I looked in the back of the school, and there was a big play yard. And then a few years later, there was like 8 portables, and there was almost no yard. But this is progress. This is what happens when populations increase, and obviously the town was successful. So. And the school demolished this past year. I met a few of you at the day we said goodbye to the old school, and it was really a day of bittersweet memories. But this beautiful new school on Devonlea Gate is, I hear it's more than meeting capacity. So here's hoping that, and one day we'll probably be saying goodbye to that school too. That's just the nature of progress. So goodbye, Beavercrest. Okay, this is another landmark. I'm sure a lot of us will remember. How are we doing for time here? Good, okay. This is the F.T. Hill store, business built by Solomon Hill, taken over by his son Franklin Thomas Hill. And there was a whole chain of these stores. I didn't realize this until I did some research on it. Orangeville, Alliston, Tara, Dundalk, Highgate, and Meaford. And the Markdale store was closed and torn down when the building was declared unsafe in 1977. And there's a very interesting video on Facebook, I think it's by Helen Ward, who posted it on the Markdale Standard Memories page of the back of the store being demolished. And I kind of remember that site, the open back of the store, and how sad I was. But so anyway, this was a great store. I think everybody that lived in Markdale at the time remembers getting hardware, groceries, clothing, footwear. There was just about everything that could be available was at this store. It was a great store. I remember a lot of us remember the creaky floors and the creaky stairs and the beautiful big windows in the front of the store. There's a lot of memories connected with the F.T. Hill store. And F.T. Hill, of course, we'll be talking about him later, but he was a real town character. Okay, here's a familiar site because we still have it. It's in a different form now. It's no longer the fire hall. It's the home of Maryland's restaurant, and right on Toronto Street north of the lights on the east side. Built in 1913. This was the fire hall. I remember it being the fire hall. I remember hearing, if you heard that bell, that was a really cool thing to hear the bell, because it was way up in this tower and it just sound carried. You didn't hear it very often when I was a kid. I think they heard it more back in the days when there was curfews. Yeah, it was known for the curfews. They had 11 p.m. curfew, where if you were seen out at night after past 11 o'clock, you were in big trouble. The town constable would be telling your parents, and you'd be getting a talking to. So the most outstanding feature of the building is the bell tower, and it says Markdale to me. It just speaks Markdale. Let's see. It was the main feature was that it was rung twice daily. People in those days didn't always have watches. If they were they were getting hungry and they didn't know exactly what time to go for lunch, they would wait for that bell to ring, and that meant it was time for lunch. So it's amazing how it became part of the town culture, and it's wonderful to still see it today. There was again a community effort to keep it standing, and here we go. It's still going. 1913, over 100 years old now. So let's move on. Okay, and here's another familiar site. The Knaresborough Hall, built by Thomas Simpson Sproul, who was an interesting local person, not only a doctor, but had his own drug store, or basically an apothecary, I guess. He was quite of some good means. Built the house that we see here, Knaresborough Hall, on the design of a Scottish castle. And the story goes that it was as a love story, like a love symbol to his wife, Mrs. Sproul, who was a member of the Flesher family. So they were quite politically and communally involved families. So, and it was purchased later when Dr. Sproul had left, and he had a very celebrated send-off when he passed away. It became a hospital when Dr. Kerfoot was able to take it over, and then it was the site of the local Royal Canadian Legion branch. And we all, I think most of us remember it as being the Don and Grant May Funeral Home for many years, and it has just recently ceased operation in that regard. So we'll talk about Dr. Sproul later, but the house is still there, and it's still like a very significant building in Markdale. Okay, funeral home. This was a funeral home too. F.T. Hill Residence, another just down the street here. Very, very nice home. Always one of those places when you went by, you thought, wow, what a nice home. Was constructed in the celebrated Queen Anne style in 1896 for businessman Solomon Hill, who was a very well-known local businessman. His son F.T. Hill took it over, and he was the one who basically got the chain of stores going that we knew of later on. It was the site of the Oliver Funeral Home for a while, and it housed the Powell Art Gallery in the 1980s. Privately owned today, and it has been used as a bed and breakfast. Maybe it still is, but it's still one of those really significant Markdale sites that we see, and it's good that we can preserve some of these. That some people have the means to do it. Okay, and here's a building we can still talk about and look at, the Carnegie Building, and this was originally built 1912. Markdale applied to the Carnegie Corporation, the great industrialist from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Mr. Carnegie, who gave financial gifts. Nobody really knows why, but he was a real philanthropist, and many towns in Canada, the US, all over the world have libraries because of his ability to give these gifts to towns. And Markdale was one of the lucky ones, erected in 1915. One of just 125 Carnegie libraries that were built in Canada. Miss Marjorie Mann and Mrs. Helen Messenger. And Mrs. Helen Messenger was the wife of Mr. Messenger, who is the longtime public school principal. So that's an interesting connection. The two of them were very important part of education here. The library moved from these premises in 2001 to the present location, which is the Walter Harris Public Library. It's just inside King Edward Park. And this building still stands today, 21 Main Street East. I think it's marked law office today, and it looks essentially the same as it did then. It's a lovely building, and then I do recall going to the library a lot for studying history and for kind of being in the atmosphere. It was a lovely place to just be. So good memories for me here. But it's a private business today. Let's move on here. Okay. I see John Butler here tonight, and John wrote a really great book about this building, the House of Refuge, which later became Grey Owen Lodge. And it went from being a county home for the, for the local poor and indigent, and it had what we called inmates at the time. Inmates didn't have the connotation it has now. It just meant people that lived in the space. And they didn't just live in the space, they worked there as well. They had to work for their keep in this building. And it was, the county home system was unique in that way. And people didn't, they would work as they could. It wasn't something where you worked yourself into the hospital or something like that. You would work as much as you were able to. Because I think Mr. Frederick G., who John wrote about, had some injuries. He was actually an army, with the British Army, a veteran who had come to Canada, began to farm, and found he had some issues, and keeping it solvent. Went to work on the railroad, as you often did if you wanted to, you would work on the railroad to pay bills. He injured himself on the railroad and had to move into the home, and actually took on quite an interesting role there. He would write weekly articles in the Advance and the Markdale Standard, and recounting life in the home, and it's a fascinating read. By John's book. The book was published in 2021. The House of Refuge, Grey County's home for poor, old, and friendless folk. It's available, I think, through Ginger Press bookstore, and it is still available. It's a great book. Later, after it was the House of Refuge, it was a seniors' home. And many of us have had seniors or folks in our family that were seniors that lived in the home. And of course, gave way to Great Gables, which is now on close to the same site today, and basically filling the same function. It's interesting how that institution had changed and kind of changed its direction, and still relevant and still very important to the community. Okay, that takes us to 11 historic figures. And probably our the earliest person would be Mark Armstrong. He was one of the founding people of Markdale. The town is named after him. The Armstrong family, or I always call them the first family of Markdale, because they seem to be the ones that kind of got, one of those families that kind of got it going. So he was born in Ireland in 1804, And at the time, the town was called East Glenelg, and it had several names, and the ones I remember most are East Glenelg, Cornebus, and Markdale. So in those days, towns often had several names and went by several names. Wasn't until they got post offices and railroad stations that they actually had, this is the name. So Mark and William were the Armstrong brothers, operated their mills on Mill Street. It's now called Main Street West. It's basically the west side of Markdale here, making cheese box stock, furniture, and veneer in the winter months. So they very busy with the lumber industry, and Mark actually chose not to manufacture wagons, and the reason was because William was killed in an accident, a 1907 Caledon horseshoe curve train accident. This echoes through Markdale history a lot. It's one of those things where it affected a lot of communities, but it seemed to affect Markdale a lot. A lot of things happened. A lot of people were involved. We'll get into some of that later. Anyway, the village was incorporated under the name of Markdale in 1849, named after Mark Armstrong, and the original Mark Armstrong died in 1882. And this is how we all remember him. I'm sure he was a young man, but I'm sure they didn't have cameras to take photos of people when he was younger. So, but this is the way I think we'll all remember Mark Armstrong. Okay, now the lady from Gray, Agnes MacPhail. Now I don't know if she lived here, but she certainly had an impact here. The first lady MP in Canadian politics. Born in Proton Township, and in 1890, she was the first. She first worked as a country teacher, and what I understand about her story was that she, as a country teacher, she saw the squalor that a lot of the country folk experienced at the time, and it became kind of stuck in her craw. And when she became more politically involved for farmers, and through I guess through other parts of her life, she began to fight it. And at the time, women didn't typically fight thing like this. They kind of would, but she wasn't made that way. I just get the sense she just kind of bristled at that. Anyway, she became politically involved with the United Farmers of Ontario, elected to the House of Commons and Ontario Legislature in the League of Nations. So she was very much driven to do things. Champion farmers' rights, equal pay for working women, and prison reform. I think we're all pretty aware of the story with Agnes MacPhail. She did finally lose an election to Walter Harris. It was the infamous snowstorm election in 1940. And Walter Harris happened to be running in the same election, and she had lost that eletion. But she was very in later years. She was held in high regard by most of her people that she fought against over time. And she passed away in February of 1954. Okay, so we're back to Mr. Thomas Simpson Sproul. He was an early Markdale councilman, but he became Speaker of the House of Commons. He was born in King Township, studied business first and then medicine. I think both came up in his life. He was very much a student of both. Began his medical practice in Michigan, and from there he came to Markdale in 1869. So. And that was at that time he constructed Knaresborough Hall, then the building we just spoke about. He had a huge medical hall sign front that I saw at an event we had here called Markdale is Rad, that was built up by a young man named Robert Ian Torno, who's an amazing history person. He's done an amazing job, I think, when he was here at the museum, but he had a way of kind of getting the community to do this event, Markdale is Rad. And one of the things was the sign, Medical Hall, which was like the width of the store, that said Medical Hall and T.S. Sproul, and it was painted by somebody in Flesherton. I believe it was one of the Fleshers had published the sign. So that was a neat thing to see. So it was a real connection to history. Ray Swayze, one of our local people, he was a local businessman at the time, had the bargain center, and many of you know him. He was the one who unearthed that and shared that with us all. It was fantastic. Anyways, Mr. Sproul, Dr. Sproul, was elected to town council in 1884, but House of Commons in 1888, appointed Speaker of the House. This was a big thing for him. And for Markdale. I mean, we had the Speaker of the House living in Markdale. When he died in November 10th, 1917, it was one of the few times in Markdale where they shut down businesses and the school, and they mourned this man. The flags were at half-mast. So he had a real significant impact on Markdale. He was a very important person at the time. And Markdale really showed him their appreciation for him. He was, as a Speaker of the House, he was a very devout Orangeman. So you got the sense that he probably didn't like French people, but he did say the prayer as Speaker of the House in French. And how he did that was by, he had a French teacher translate it and write it out phonetically for him to speak it at the when he opened up the House of Commons. So that was a pretty significant thing that he made that effort to reach out to the French-speaking Canadian public at that time. So let's move on here. Oh, this is one of my favorite characters, Sir William Mulock. He has a very, I just kind of did some hyphens here because he had such a great history. And how he ended up in this area, I have no idea. I'll talk about that later. So he was known as the Grand Old Man of Canada, born in Bond's Head, later took up residence in the Newmarket area and ran a farm there most of his life. He was a well-known Postmaster General and had a couple things that he basically created at that time that we still enjoy today. Impacted many Canadian institutions, including the creation of the Toronto Star, the Bank of, the Dominion Bank, which later became Toronto Dominion Bank. Anyway, so he's got a very colorful life. Purchased a farm near Berkeley, Ontario, and stocked the ponds there with various fish and grew varieties of trees. And this, of course, he had started doing on his farm in Newmarket. And the interesting story was how he purchased this farm, which is actually on the Westback Line and 60 Side Road, Berkeley area. He visited this farmer, and the farmer said, "Oh, you got to buy this place. It's great. You can catch fish anytime you want. I'll give it to you for $15,000." And he said, "Okay, well, let's show me how you can catch fish anytime you want." So they took him to a pond. He just caught fish at will. Just impressed him, trying to impress him so much. And I think Sir William was still a little dubious. And so he let the man talk and negotiate a little further. And finally he said, "Okay, I'll give you $9,000 for it." And he said, "Okay." So he got a real bargain. I think that's probably why he did buy the property. It was like less than 2/3 of what was originally offered. Anyway, so that's how we ended up in this area. Mulock is the name of a town just between Hanover and Durham on the south side. And it was named after Sir William when he was Postmaster General. And I think the reason was because they didn't know what to call it. They just said, well, he's the Postmaster General, so let's name it after him. And that's what I say. A lot of these towns, they had different names, but they would pick a name when they had to. We have to call this something, so let's call it Mulock. That's one example of it. Okay, and he passed away in October 1944. He was 102 years old. He was still pretty active. He was very spry. It was, I understand, in his 99th year, he was still clearing the culverts on his farm near Berkeley. He was a very active guy. He was one of those characters who lived a normal life but became ill in his late 60s, and then just suddenly had a revitalization. His life changed, and he became revitalized, lived another 40 years, and in really good health apparently, even though he was a heavy cigar smoker and a heavy whiskey drinker. But yeah, one of my favorite characters of history. Okay, how are we doing for time? We're getting quite late here, so I might have to tie this up pretty quickly here. Getting a little talkative here. Okay, Mr. I.B. Lucas, I'm just gonna, perpetually named the boy orator for his boyish good looks. Born in Lambton County, educated at Strathroy, where I lived for about a year, University of Toronto, law partner in the law firm Bishop and Lucas in Owen Sound, then moved from Markdale to form Lucas and Henry, and then Lucas and Lucas, member of Christ Church Anglican, and was a longtime Orangeman. Lucas ran for the party nomination over his father-in-law and won. And died in Toronto. We don't know the exact date, but it was sometime in 1840. Okay, and you can study more about him online. He's a very interesting character. The August 8th, 1884 Markdale Standard reported this this was the first school shooting, one of the first school shooting cases in North America. And of course, there's one almost daily now, which is very sad. But this happened in Markdale. This came to my attention by a friend who lived in the US, and we had been talking about the Columbine school shooting. And I had said, well, the only one I know of was a Brampton high school shooting. I don't think we have those up here. And they sent this to me, and I was stunned. I was shocked that this had happened back in 1884. And the young woman survived the attack. She had a bullet in her head, and her third finger was damaged. But she survived and went on to marry an Anglican Reverend, James Ward. They served many Anglican churches, and James passed away in 1935 at the age of 92. I'm not sure when she passed, but she lived a good, healthy, a very vibrant life after this event. It's really, really nice that she had a chance to survive this very sad and tragic event. But okay, Frank F.T. Hill. So he took over from his father, married Margaret Mansley, raising his daughter, Betty, Mrs. Clarence Macaulay, and expanded the business into a successful chain of department stores, Markdale, Meaford, Dundalk, Brampton, Orangeville, and Alliston, diversified into farming, a garage, and a candy store. He was a really solid businessman, passed away in 1963. He's visible in the film that we showed last year, September of 2024, The Stars of the Town. In one scene, he's on screen for about 6 seconds. So if you want to see that, it's great to see him alive there. Walter Harris. This is somebody many of us knew in person, born on January 14th in Kimberley, Ontario, nearby, and ran as a Liberal candidate. Of course, as I said, won against Agnes MacPhail in the 1940 snowstorm federal election. And I understand that they decided not to have any more elections in March, or at times when there could be snowstorms because of that particular election. Rose to Minister of Citizenship and Immigration and Finance Minister under Prime Minister Louis Saint Laurent. Retired from politics in 1958, resuming successful law practice. And that's where I remember him most as a lawyer. And I remember walking down the street and seeing him, and he'd say hello. Very personable gent. I just remember, have good memories of Walter Harris. He was resumed his successful Markdale law practice, named president, later chairman of Victorian Grey Trust Company, and passed away in 1999, and the new Markdale Public Library is named in his honor. Okay. Chris Chris Neal, I might not have to say much about Chris Neal. He's a great hockey player, came from Flesherton, was born in Markdale. I think it's a story that's pretty well known. You can see lots about Chris anywhere on the internet or anywhere but Chris, I wanted to tribute Chris in this speech tonight. And this is a gent I didn't know lived in Markdale for a time. His name is Doug Maxwell. He was born in Toronto, and he was a big curling guy. Became a pioneer in CBC sportscasting, and I've seen him. I ran across his voice in a video of a Toronto Stanley Cup win in 1964, and he was doing the voiceover. And I said, I thought he was a curling guy, so I looked it up, did some research on him, and found out he passed away after living many years here in Markdale. August of 2007 was when he passed away. He wrote many books about curling. He's actually a pretty big deal in curling. He is responsible for a lot of things that have made it very popular today. So Doug Maxwell, a Markdale guy, who'd have thought? Okay, the Chapman family. This is a long one. They've done a lot, haven't they? They started from basically nothing and built an international phenomenon, state-of-the-art community school that they've helped to construct. They've helped the Ukrainian war refugees here in Canada. There's so much that they've done. We've had a lot of local focus here because of the Chapmans, because of their story. CBC and TVO have done a lot of documentaries here recently because of this family. So I think they deserve to be tributed here tonight as well. So the Chapman family, that's Ashley in the back, Penny here in the front left, and David on the front right. Okay, so I'm going to just tie this up fairly quickly. These are some of the local quirks that happened. In 1882, this is a true event. Almost every resident in town faced charges for having an unsanitary outhouse. It's true, and there's lots of stories in the Markdale history book. People, and it was very serious because there was a lot of diseases that people could have caught. So it was important to give these people a little shake of the finger. It's okay. Okay. I hope all of you have your outhouses clean. Several, oh yes, the 1907 Caledon Horseshoe Curve crash. That's come up a lot in the Markdale history book. I.B. Lucas was one. He became well known because he was a prosecution lawyer in that case when that case went to trial. It echoed a lot throughout history. We talked about the first North American school shooting in 1984, one of the first. By 1970, somebody with Hollywood clout tried to bury that lovely film I've been trying to promote, but I found it, and it's okay. The mythical, surreal, and unlikely. I don't know how many of you know, but there was a Sasquatch sighting at Barrhead. It's documented. I don't know too many of the details. In 1964, the person said he was related to a family that raised turkeys in the Barrhead area. And he was in the back of his parents' car, and they were turning the corner, I guess, at Barrhead, and he saw this figure, 8 feet tall, standing at the side of the road, long arms, hairy, and it just stood there and kind of arched back. And then when the car moved past, he said it came out on the road and crossed the road, and I thought maybe he was going to Barrhead. Anyway, it's a documented case. I noticed on the site all the photos that they took of their investigation are down. So I don't know what that means. But I think the gentleman now lives in the United States. He maybe that tells us some of the story too. But Sasquatch. Who'd have known? Yes, the notorious 1974 murder of Violet Semple. It was a lot of people were terrified after that happened, and because there had been a subsequent murder a murder of a lady in Ayton, I think, Aletha Jane, I can't remember her name. anyway, there was another murder around the same time, so people were terrified. But they did make an arrest. I think it was Bud Carlisle was the name of the gent, and I think he received a reduced charge because of insanity. But it was solved. And if anybody ever sees the Global TV little documentary they did, I'm looking for it. It's got a lot of Markdale people in it that were interviewed about the case. So if it ever comes up, let me know. Oh yes, the last remaining First Nations residents lived around the Markdale Cemetery area, and I believe it was because it was probably the last forested area here. And there are reports that they would actually, if you were sick or if your family was sick, they were so conscious of their surroundings that they would bring medicine and supplies to you. And they didn't speak the language necessarily, but they were very supportive. They would support the local settlers with footwear. They showed them how to survive the landscape. So pretty amazing. We don't know more than what we do know, but they when they were here, they stayed around and they were very, very helpful to the community. But I think they left because this area was all bush at one time, and then it just wasn't. It had to be clear cut. It was just so there was no life for them without a bush. They had no lifestyle. And okay, and I'd like to end tonight by talking about a mystery to me, the notorious Dizzy Liz Hamilton. There's nothing really much about her in history, but except that Stompin' Tom Connors and his young bride stayed there and visited one time in the 70s, and I think Glenn and Bob Alton, two young boys at the time, went to get autographs from Stompin' Tom. So that's the only thing I know about that particular institution. Okay, and that is my take on Markdale history. Okay. Good. Hi, Terry.
So what we do at this time is we ask if anybody has any questions. We answer for questions.
Okay, thank you, Terry. At this time, I'd like to get, hopefully keep it down to 4 questions. If anybody's got a question for me or a comment. Okay, this.
We had classes in the armories.
Okay.
3 years. I'd have to walk from the other school there and back.
Okay, this lady here, can you tell me your name?
Dorothy Hill.
Dorothy. Oh, hi, Dorothy. Dorothy Hill is just over here. She recalls going to school at the Armories building back in, do you recall the time, Dorothy? Do you recall the era that you went to school there? In the late 1940s. And that was probably because they were doing some fixing at the high school? Or they just...
Well, there just wasn't room.
Okay. They had run out of room at...
The school up on top of the hill is gone now.
Oh, okay. So they had run out of room at the public school at the top of the hill here, and they sent students like Dorothy over to the armories to teach, to be taught. Yeah, so she has many memories there. That's great. Great. Somebody else over here?
I may be misunderstood.
Okay.
But I thought when you were talking about the arena,
Yes.
I'm a little older than you.
Yes.
I remember going to hockey games, and it would have been the mid-50s.
Yes.
And then you mentioned Chris.
Oh, okay.
His grandfather there was Fletcher and Markdale dug up at Honeywood were the teams. That's all I remember. And I have no memory of if they had team names.
Oh, no.
His grandfather played hockey, and if you ever saw his grandfather playing hockey, you'd know where Chris got some.
Okay. Okay, we have an interesting comment over here about the arena and about Chris Neal's grandfather, and that was Barry, sorry, not Barry. Barry is his father. This would be Hank Best. Hank Best, I remember. And Hank Best was a very notorious hockey player. He was very well known, and he was the toughest player, I think, in those leagues in those days. So yeah, thank you. And there was a lot of tough hockey players. You played in Markdale and Flushing, and you had to be tough on that ice because finesse didn't do it. The finesse guys had to be tough too. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Just a little bit more, I don't know whether anyone would be interested, but we went, my parents and I went to a lot of the games. I remember coming home, we were just a couple miles south of Flushing, and I remember one night my father had to go to we were near home, had to go to the barn and get horses to pull people through snowdrifts on the highway.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah. Yes, she was just saying that she remembers going to a hockey game, and her father, to get to the game, he had to plow out several other people to get there. And they probably were grateful of it so they could see the game. Yeah, that's true. Any other questions? Yes, Walter.
Politician, Sir William Hearst. He was a Premier of Ontario around 1900.
Right.
And he had a college across the road from him.
Yes.
I live in Chelsea Township, 5 kilometers from here. And his parents were the original settler on that property.
Yes.
And they moved to Terra, and that's where he was born.
Yes. William Hearst.
I know also there is a little forest, a spare forest, where he had a college. The people, at least one person, who planted the trees in 1926.
Isn't that amazing? I wonder, this is Walter Jennon, ladies and gentlemen. He was recalling William Hearst, who was at one time was the Premier of Ontario. His family pioneered that area, correct?
Yes.
Just north of Markdale, and in Holland Township, or what would be Chatsworth Township now. And maybe that's why Sir William Mulock moved there, because he was into the trees and fisheries as well. So, but yeah, there's many people I haven't mentioned, I'm sure, but William Hearst, very, very integral person that I missed. I'm sorry. Maybe one more question, Terry? Okay. Yes. I wouldn't be surprised. Yes, this is Don Parsons. He just mentioned about Beavercrest School that was just torn down in 2025, being the workers who tore it down said it was one of the toughest schools or one of the toughest buildings to take down. And it was pretty solid. I do remember going to school there and thinking, yes. So there you go. It wasn't going down without a fight. And well, thank you for staying tonight. I want to thank everyone for coming. I want to thank Tim and Ron up in the booth there. I want to thank Terry so much. And I'm going to ask Terry to come back. And you probably have some closing notes, Terry?
We have some closing notes.
With me here, if you don't mind. Peter Whitehead, curator of the Grey Highlands Museum.
Whoa! It's alive!
Jumped at me. History jumps at you. Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to talk a little bit about tonight specifically, and something that I think that we do exceptionally well in Grey Highlands, and that's storytelling. My background's storytelling, absolutely. I started in advertising. I had a 20-year career where you struggled sometimes to tell a story on a piece of paper, where you only had an image and a few words. It was kind of joyful to work in radio because you could communicate verbally, and television commercials were a joy because you could spend some clients' money and travel. And you could tell a story in 30 seconds with both visuals and words to accompany it. And it was an interesting career, but somewhat unfulfilling. I like telling stories in a bit of a longer format. And I decided to leave that 20-year career and go with a friend of mine and start a company creating documentary films. So then you can just speak from your heart. You can tell the tales that you want to tell in whatever length you want to tell it, with as much detail as you want. And it was joyful as a storyteller to have that freedom. I mean, tonight you felt the pressure of time, and we should never feel the pressure of time when you're captivating people with stories. And although that was what I thought would be my entire career, I happened to be invited to shoot a documentary at a museum. And I was there for a week and spent a lot of time talking with the people at that facility. And by the time I left, I was invited to apply for a job as the creative director and essentially the executive director of this museum down in the States. And it was life-changing, because now you're telling stories dimensionally. And it is a very different format in storytelling, but through artifacts and exhibits and the history surround us, you can tell some pretty amazing stories. Now, our guest speaker, Jeff, I think shares that same passion. I think he knows that sometimes, and only he would know this to this degree, that an artist's brush or a pencil can say things sometimes that words cannot say. And just like him, we know that the stories that we tell here in Grey Highlands are as special as any stories in the world. So tonight, as we celebrate our local tales and the many ways that we bring them to life, let's remember that storytelling is at the heart of everything that we do. It is how we connect as a community. It is how we celebrate this beautiful place that we are lucky enough to call home. So thank you to Jeff for sharing your incredibly unique gift with us tonight. A huge thank you to the Friends of the Museum, especially I'm going to look at that sadly empty space and thank Barry and Jane, who could not attend tonight, sadly. But they have continued to bring unique voices to the Speaker Series event throughout the years. And last but not least, a huge thank you to you, physically, to everyone who came, because by attending and supporting activities very much like this, you are telling this municipality that you understand the important role that culture plays in Grey Highlands. And I think it is everything. And so thank you to Jeff. Thank you to everyone here tonight. A fantastic night of storytelling. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. If you would, Jeff.
Yes. Oh,
Thank you. You are the man of the hour tonight. Tonight we have a couple of donations which are being made by the Friends of the Grey Highlands Museum. And I would now call on Steve Plenner, who has the donation cards which were prepared by Catherine Plenner. Our very first donation is going to go to the Annesley United Church in recognition of the ongoing support and partnership in the Speaker Series. And I call up Dale now, please.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Just want to say a quick thank you to the Friends, really. Agnes Vale, Friends of Agnes Vale, as well as the Friends of the Museum. They've used this sanctuary for the last couple of years, and we're happy to be hosts. Tim up there does a great job in producing the speakers, and look at the turnout, it's fantastic. And I would just, there's many folks here from Annesley, just so you know that we do support me in the spot like that, you know. If you could just put your hand up, and there's an Armstrong in here too.
There is, yes.
Absolutely. So just, if the friends from Annesley could just put your hands up to show the others that we
we do support this program. Okay, so thanks very much.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Thank you.
The next Friends of the Museum donation will be to the Grey Highlands Museum itself. It's to be used to enhance the current programs, events, and activities, and then to improve whatever needs to be improved. And we'd call now upon the board chair, Colleen Boer, and all members of the museum board to please step forward.
Would you guys stand in the spotlight?
There you go.
Fair enough, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. Thank you, thank you. On behalf of the Grey Highlands Museum Board, the Friends have been so supportive over the years, and annually they give us a monetary donation from the proceeds that they've raised from events such as this. So thank you for your attendance tonight, and we will find a special need at the museum that this particular monetary donation will fulfill. Thank you so very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's almost time for tea, coffee, for mingling, for meeting with Jeff, for meeting with your family and your friends again. And now we have the tradition that happens, so please pull out your little white tickets, because we have door prizes again. At each one of these Speaker Series events, we have at least 3 door prizes, and this time we have 3 separate books. The first book is called A Gentleman of Substance, which is the life and legacy of John Redpath, a very famous early Canadian, actually Ontario statesman. The second one is called the Amalguin Chronicles, Memories of the Past. This deals with the various boats that were charter boats and sailing boats up in the Muskoka region. And the third one is called The Golden Bridge, Young Immigrants to Canada between 1833 and 1939. If you are the lucky winner and the first one, you have your choice of one of these books, and we go down the line from there. The books are appropriate in that this was a night for history, so we continue our studies. And of course, thank you. I was going to mention that, but that's great that you reminded me. We have to also thank the people who donated these books, and that is indeed Jane and Barry. Let's give them another round of applause again. Thank you. And we will ask our guests to pull out the first number, the first lucky ticket, and I will read the numbers if you don't mind. Thank you, Jeff. It is the white and blue ticket. Of course, they're all white and blue tickets. Last 4 numbers, 4426. 4426. We have a winning person from the back. Here, you can grab one for me. And then they can pick which one they want. You can go by thickness or by content. He's going by thickness. Just kidding. Thank you very much. Congratulations. The second one?
Such an actor.
Last 4 numbers. 4412. 4412. Lady at the back. Congratulations. You can hold those for me, Jeff. Thank you. And the third. Oh, wait a minute. Whoa. This is the right one. Had her worried for a minute. And the third ticket, please. Thank you, Jeff. The last four numbers. 4383. 4383. And we have another winner coming up now.
You want the lighter one or the heavy? Oh. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, this marks the end of a very successful 2025 Speakers Series, a series of special speakers and presentations, each of whom, as Jeff illustrates tonight, knew what they were talking about and did a phenomenal presentation. So let's give all of them and Jeff another round of applause. Our intention, and Barry and Jane's intention, is to be back here next year. We want to be back next April, so we'll give you a bit of a break. And at that time, Jane asked me to print this picture off and show you, not that you can probably see, but you may recognize this man because he was a speaker here a time before. It's Hap Wilson. Hap Wilson is the canoeist, the explorer, the adventurer who talked to us about canoe routes across Canada and about exploring Canada's wilderness. He'll be back to talk about ecotourism in April of 2026. In the meantime, on behalf of the Friends of the Grey Highlands Museum, please accept our very sincere, our most sincere wishes for a very Merry Christmas, a joy-filled holiday, and a very healthy and prosperous new year. I'm Terry Moker, your MC, bidding you a fond farewell till we meet again, and God bless us, each and every one.